All right. Welcome to another edition of From Here to There. Today we have Dr. Brian Black.
That's me.
Yes, with us. Dr. Black is a member of our Board of Trustees at Oak Valley College, so I'm excited to have you here. And you know one of our students, right?
Yes, very well.
Was that on purpose or by accident?
Oh, well, I think just God brought him into our lives for a reason. I haven't figured it out yet, but there he is.
Yeah, you came highly recommended by him.
Yeah. Oh, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
We call him Miho. So he's our Miho.
So, Dr. Black, I don't know a lot about you, and I learned probably twice as much as I knew about you before. I learned that in the last 15 minutes.
As I was sharing my life story.
So you're a dentist out in the desert.
Yep.
You're an inventor with patents.
Yes.
You were in the military.
Yes.
You were a school teacher.
Yes.
You painted houses when things were rough. You did all this. Let me ask you. I mean, the name of this speaker series is From Here to There.
Yeah.
So, thinking about where you are right now, did you expect to be here at any point in your life?
No. I don't think I'm there yet, but I never expected to ever own a business, or I never expected that. Never planned it. It wasn't like a life's aspiration was I'm going to go into business for myself.
So this was the thing that I told you out there was, you do not strike me as the kind of person who plays it safe. You strike me as the kind of person who takes risks and is entrepreneurial, like from day one.
Yeah.
You've always been entrepreneurial, always wanted to own your own business. That's how I had painted you.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. Are you a different person now than you were a while ago?
Yes, I'm very different. And, it took years to develop who I am now. I mean, if you saw me 10 years ago, I was a totally different person. Even my hairstyle was different. So yeah.
Man, am I glad you're here now. I mean, you have arrived with this.
Yeah,
So, well, take us back to when you were undergraduate, college age.
Okay.
What did you think your life was going to be like as you looked forward?
Well, okay, so basically my undergraduate years were 1988 through 92. Graduated from UC Riverside with had a bachelor's in science and biology. My father was a fourth grade school teacher for almost 40 years. My mom worked for a dentist and oral surgeon. She was a trained dental assistant at a Chaffey College back in the late 60s. She worked front office and did insurance collections and things like that. But that didn't play any part with my dentistry. That had nothing to do with what I'm doing now. I never went to the dental office and thought, oh, Mom, what are they doing back there? I didn't know.
Right.
But my dad my grandparents were in the trades. My grandpa was a plumber. My other grandpa was a carpenter for his lifetime. But I was always told you should go into something that's safe and secure. My dad said, well, go into sciences because that's where the money's at for jobs. There's good jobs. I ended up becoming a school teacher. I was a 7th grade science teacher for 3 years. There's good benefits. You get time off during the summers. I was married to Pearl. That's my wife over there. So we got married in '93 when I started teaching, and she was still at Cal Poly Pomona finishing her program up. So
Right.
I had no financial training. My parents, I remember my dad at night was always working on the old Kenmore adding machine, which was this big box. Click, click, click. When we were watching TV, he'd be working and figure out how to pay the next bill, that type of thing.
So he was working on that just as personal finance stuff.
Yeah, I just remember.
He was a fourth grade teacher.
Yeah, I didn't know really anything about how to do anything with finances. And so Pearl and I got married. We had no clue about budgeting. I mean, couldn't rub two nickels together, but somehow we made it, and here we are today. So
you told me a little bit about some of the jobs that you had when times were lean, even when you were a kid. Just can you name some of the things that you did to get by?
Well, yeah. I mean, I started out. I remember when I was a kid, my dad was mowing the yard one day. I was probably about 7. I said, Dad, how do you mow the yard? It looked kind of cool pushing a lawnmower.
Yeah, giant blade flipping around.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's kind of neat.
I want some of that.
So he showed me how, and after that, it became my chore every week. I have a twin brother. We shared it. But then I found out, well, if I mowed someone else's yard, maybe I get paid. And so at age 8, I was mowing Barry and Colleen's yard next door, which was massive, and I got paid $3.50 to mow this yard. That was good money when you're 8 years old in 1978. Yeah. So I mowed yards. My granddad, if we pulled weeds and got the root, we got a nickel a weed. So I would pull weeds for a nickel a weed. If I didn't have a root, I didn't get paid. So I had to pull that weed so it wouldn't grow back. And little things like that. My brother and I there was a kid named Joe who had a paper route, and we'd play that's when the paper route was in the evenings, and so they'd throw the Riverside Press Enterprise about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd be out playing basketball in the driveway, and Joe would come by on his bike, and nice kid, he was a high schooler, so we kind of looked up to him because we were like 6th, 7th grade. And he would deliver the newspapers and come by and play basketball with us for about 20 minutes, and we thought Joe was cool. And I thought, we started talking to Joe, like, how do you get a paper route? And the paper route business at the time was who you knew. So if like a kid died or something like that, you can get his route. That was,
it was like having a cab medallion in New York or something.
That's pretty much what it was.
You have to inherit the paper route.
Exactly. And so
I'm
Joe
gonna fix one thing. I'm sorry, it's bugging me.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Joe moved on, and we got his route, and so there was actually 2 routes. It was Route 6212 and 6222, and there was 175 papers between both routes. And for 3 years, my brother and I, we threw papers every morning. That's when it switched to 5 a.m. So we threw papers every morning for 3 years.
Wow, that's great.
I got $1.40 for every month's worth of paper throwing. For every $5.50 I collected, I got $1.40.
I'm just curious, has anybody in this room ever had a paper route? Anybody know somebody who had a paper route? 2, 3, 4 people? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a paper route. Yeah. It was a weekly paper route, so I was kind of a...
So the daily facts?
No, I was up... Now, here's my story. My paper route was a weekly paper route, but it was up in northern Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, so that's a little rougher.
Yeah, so I got to do it in the snow, and my shtick was I would make sure that I walked the last block back up to my house as slowly and trudgingly as possible, and I'd make sure that ice would form on my eyelashes.
Right.
So I'd walk in the house, and my parents would feel all bad for me, and then... It never worked. I would walk in and they'd say, "What took you so long? It should be done in 45 minutes. And it took you 2 hours." But
yeah, we
that was my paper.
Every day we threw the paper. Christmas Day we threw the paper.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I'll say, my dad was great. My dad always, if it was raining, when it did rain, he would put us in the back of the station wagon. We'd throw from the back of the station wagon. So Dad was always there for us. That was cool.
Those are fun days.
So did the paper out.
Yeah.
My first real job was working at a thrifty drugstore, now Rite Aid, but thrifty drugstore. They sold liquor and all kinds of stuff. So at 16, I couldn't actually I couldn't cashier or stock shelves because they had a liquor license. So you had to be 18. So I got my manager. This is my first real boss. Again, I had no clue about the world. My worldview was very small. My parents' worldview was very small. We just didn't travel a lot of places and things like that. But I remember Ms. Harden. It's an ironic name because she was a hard lady. She was tough. And so I remember I got my job and I was scooping ice cream.
Yeah.
And that's hard work. And then I have to go and take those big cages full of ice cream in the back. And this was during the summer. And I have to move them in and unload all the big 5-gallon things of ice cream. And then they call someone to serve ice cream at the front. I had to move it all back out and go back. So it was crazy work, but I did it for 4 months. And I had to, I got paid $3.35 an hour for that. That was minimum wage.
Why only 4 months?
Well, because that's when I found out. I've always been, success for me has always been like advancing to the next level. Like I was never content just staying there, and I found out that at Thrifty at the time they had a union. Okay, so as a
16-year-old, you were aware of the union?
It's the Commercial Food Workers Union, and even though as a part-time 16-year-old, I had to contribute to the union dues, which made no sense. It didn't make sense then. I was a part-time worker, but I was paying union dues, and I couldn't figure out, well, why am I doing that? So it was cutting into my $3.35 an hour.
Yeah.
Right. So I realized, okay, and I got this taxes. I mean, I remember when I got the job, I was so excited. My dad was painting. My dad was actually painting houses as a second job.
In the summer, that's what teachers do.
We didn't have money. I never asked my parents for money since I was 7 years. I never did because we didn't have it. I had a very loving home, but there was no money to go around, so we never bothered to ask. But I remember running to this house not too far away from where we lived, and Dad was there painting. I said, "Dad, I got my first job at Thrifty." I was so excited. And he was really proud of me. And then I got my first paycheck. Well, this is no good. They're taking all this money from me. And so it turns out...
Who's FICA?
Yeah, who is FICA? I don't
Why
like
is he taking all my money?
FICA's a jerk. So I ended up, they were opening a new Target store. Now they bought out a store called Gemco. Gemco that store was awesome. Gemco was like, it was a discount retailer with a grocery store attached, and we used to, when I was a kid, I'd ride my bike. My brother and I we'd ride our bikes down to Gemco every 2 weeks. My dad would give us $1 a week for allowance.
Okay.
Okay.
How long would it take you to spend that $1?
Well, we would save for 2 weeks because then you have $2, and we'd go to the Yum Yum Donuts next to the Gemco. Yeah. The Yum Yum Donuts. I don't want to know all these details, but An apple fritter was 58 cents. So we get our apple fritter, and then we go to Gemco, and Hot Wheels was 95. A Hot Wheels car was 95 cents plus tax. We had just enough with extra change, and we get our Hot Wheels. We collected our Hot Wheels that way. So Gemco got bought out by Target. Target came in. They basically got to the store one summer. This is I got hired August 12th, 1987.
Target's a Minnesota company.
Yeah, Dayton Hudson Corporation out of Minnesota.
That's how Minnesotans do it. We
That's
just
right.
interrupt and say that's a Minnesota company.
Yeah, it totally is.
They're from Minnesota.
Well, that's it. So I ended up getting. I had 3 questions. They had a big semi-truck trailer. They were hired a mass hire for Target. This Gemco had been closed for like 2 years, and so it was like, wow, they're going to do something there. So I went in this tractor trailer, and they had this like kind of office set up. And I said, I'd like to apply for a job. And the gal that was there said, okay, well, what job do you want? I said, well, let me ask you this. Can you be a cashier if you're not 18? Yes. Okay. I said, well, is there a union? No. Okay, check that box. Is it minimum wage? She goes, it's $3.80 an hour. And I just, $3.80 an hour, no, that's big cash. So sign me up.
A lot of Hot Wheels cars.
Yeah, so I got signed up and I got hired August 12th, and employee number 5991765, 10% discount. So I ended up working there for a year, and I started.
It's not Google,
And I'm just, it's weird. It's weird. I remember all these little details. And there's this cute Chinese girl working there, and her name was Pearl. And so I started kind of eyeballing her one day, and that's where we met. So 5 years later, we're married. I'm school teaching. She's in Cal Poly, and now here we are at Oak Valley College.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's how we got started.
Okay, so take us from being a school teacher. Mm-hmm. We're going to skip over military.
It's exciting, but okay.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's not that exciting.
Take us from being a school teacher to doing inventing stuff.
Oh,
And
man.
saying, why shouldn't I invent stuff?
Okay.
That's what this is.
Okay, well, so,
It does not go like this.
no, it's not a pipe.
Yeah, no, it's upside down.
It could be, I suppose, but okay. So that's that's quite a leap. So basically, I ended up going to dental school, and that's another long story.
Okay, so why did you want to quit teaching? Why go to
Well, okay,
dentistry?
I was 22. I started teaching, and I just didn't feel confident or comfortable doing it. I didn't feel I had enough life experience to bring to the classroom.
You were
And
teaching at a high school?
I taught 7th grade science for 3
7th
years.
grade.
Yeah.
You didn't have enough life experience to bring to a 7th grade classroom.
I was very young and naive.
Wow,
And
okay.
so I wasn't comfortable doing it. And I was looking for opportunities elsewhere. And I had a biology degree, and so I was looking for different jobs, and I was getting a lot of rejection. At the time, I didn't realize that we were in a slight economic slump at the time. The nation was under the beginning of the Bush
in the
presidency.
90s?
Yeah, early 90s.
Yep.
So, so basically what happened was my mom found out that I was looking for work, and she mentioned it. There was a new doctor, a new oral surgeon that was associated at the oral surgery office she worked at. He was a graduate from Loma Linda, and she had told him about me, and so he wanted to meet me for lunch sometime. Okay, so Pearl and I go and we meet September of '95, and we sat down with Dr. Gary Chan, who practices in Redlands.
Oh yeah, Gary Channing.
Yeah, it's Gary Chan. So we sat there for lunch, and afterwards he says, after talking to you, you might make a good dentist. And I had no clue. So, well, how do you do that?
So wait a second. Why would this guy want to meet you?
Just because my mom was jaw-jacking about how troubled I was and looking for work. And
So when I connect the dots, it took someone else, your mom, that you were connected with, to connect you with this third
Correct.
person. That's how, and it took you to have the courage to just go and request a meeting.
no, she kind of requested it. I was kind of mad for a while. We were going to church out in Pomona where we lived, and
Does your mom still make decisions in your life?
no, my mom does not make. Although I'm seeing her for dinner tonight. So, but no, I was kind of frustrated. I didn't want my laundry aired out, so to speak. But I said, okay, we'll meet with him. So we sat down and we had lunch, and then he said, well, if you want to go to dental school, there's one right down the road at Loma Linda. And okay, so you have to take the DAT, the dental aptitude test, and you got to get accepted. So basically, I did all that last minute. There's a lot of backstory. This is a whole different story, but basically, I ended up getting accepted into dental school. And so while I'm there, again,
You'd never thought of yourself as a dentist.
no, see, again, small world. My grandparents from the trades. I don't have any doctors in my family I'm aware of.
Right.
We're not rich, and I wasn't an Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist. So
Right.
I always thought I had 3 strikes against me.
Right.
And so I always kind of carried that with me. And so I ended up going there, and I ended up graduating. And meanwhile, I'm there, I'm thinking, well, how are we going to pay for all this? It was at the time it was $200,000 to go to dental school.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't have it in my pocket. So in fact, just getting a spot, there was 2,000 No, 2,800 people applied for each seat in that school the year I went. There were 100 seats. They had 2,800 applicants.
For 100 seats.
So I was in competition, yeah. So I was competing with 28 other people to get a spot. It's the only school I applied to. I got accepted only because I was on a wait list. Some kid's uncle paid for him to go ride his bike somewhere in Europe for some reason for a year, and that's what they told me. You got in because some kid's riding his bike in Europe. So that instills you a lot of confidence. Like, okay, well, we didn't
want you in the first place, but because this kid is.
Well, see, I always joke that Brian G. Black got accepted or something, and they got the initial messed up, and they called Brian P. Black, and they realized after that they couldn't turn it back. But so just to get a spot, once you get accepted to school, you got to put money on the table. You can't just do financial aid. You will do financial aid, but they needed $2,500 cash to reserve my spot because it was that competitive. We had just saved $1,000. We were so excited. I remember we were talking about, we're so excited we got $1,000. And so we had $1,000. We had no other resources. And I wasn't going to ask my parents for it. But one night we just got on the phone. We just prayed. God, we need $1,500. And we prayed and prayed. Like, could you bring $1,500? 2 weeks later, I get a call from Sylvia Davis, who's the admissions officer. And she says, Brian, I got good news for you. I said, what? She goes, a $1,500 a $1,500 anonymous donation was given to your account. You now have a spot in dental school, and off I went.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. To this day, it's amazing. It almost brings me to tears thinking about it.
Yeah.
But so off I'm in dental school. I graduated. I go off in the Air Force because I got a scholarship with the Air Force.
After dental school?
Yeah. I was my first year, and I applied for a scholarship. Military branches all have scholarships for dental school. The Air Force had a 3-year scholarship, which I was awarded the 3-year scholarship, and I had to serve for 3 years, but it was the advanced training the first year that really was what mattered to me. So I did advanced training in general dentistry my first year in the Air Force, served a total of 3 years. During that time, I came across a certain product. I won't name it, but there's all kinds of dental isolation products. Now this is kind of neat. When I got, the school of dentistry wanted me to teach there. In fact, my junior year in dental school, they asked me to come back and teach.
At Loma Linda?
At Loma Linda, and I said, well, I'll be happy to, but I've got an Air Force commitment first.
It's because you owed them money. They were going to get it out.
Right.
They were going to get it out of you.
So I end up going to the Air Force, coming back to Loma Linda and teaching. And while I'm there, I started thinking it'd be nice to have a product where because students don't work with assistants, they have to work by themselves. I thought, would it be nice if there's something they could use? And so there's all kinds of isolation products, but the world, there's a saying, there's just a better mousetrap. It's a cheap little thing. And so they're using this now at Loma Linda. And this is the company that now licensed and sells this is in 96 countries.
That's
so
great.
yeah, so
and you sold it to another company.
I licensed the patent rights.
You licensed the patent.
Yeah.
So you make money off of every one of these that's sold.
In theory.
In theory. Okay, so we teach the seniors in the room have been in a design thinking course with me where we talk about going from basically a problem to an idea to a concept to a prototype to a test.
Yes.
All that. What was your process? Did this come to you in a dream or?
Yeah, actually, part of the patent is it has these like leaf-like channels. Like I said, there's other products out there, and I've studied patents. I learned a lot about patents. There's a difference between being patentable and also being what's called non-infringement. So you can get a product patented, but it may infringe on another patent. So there's two concepts, and so basically I started sketching this out. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a dentist who has an idea, and he said, "How do you do this, Brian?" I said, "Well, get a journal. And if you have a journal, you sketch out your design idea, or you write your concept out, sign and date your journal.
Put a date on it.
And the other thing is, if you think it's something that someone might steal from you or take from you, do a poor man's copyright. Take your journal, sign, date, do all that, and then get a copy of it, put it in a certified letter, mail it to yourself, don't open it. Because it time date stamps your idea.
Wow.
So in case you have others around you that you are working with, or you may have shared that with, and all of a sudden they use your idea, you've got some sort of proof that you had it first.
Yeah. There are a couple of people in this room that should use that idea.
Always document and sign and date your, and just keep that journal handy. So so I would do that. I had binders. I have a binder this thick.
So you're trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
You're making sketches. When do you take this and see if it works? Your idea, does this idea work? Is it marketable? All the business stuff. We're
going to run short on time, but basically what happened was, this was in 2007, and at the time, the economy was rich and the housing bubble was going, and so, we had equity. We'd bought a house, and we had equity in the house. So I borrowed against the house, and I started because I think I took $20,000 against the house, and I used that money to basically, number one, start the company. So I got a company name, got it registered through the county and all that. And then I took the concept and I had to find like a design engineer company or something like that. And what they did was, it's called SLA, or stereolithography. It's kind of like 3D printing.
Okay.
The stereolithography was where they have like a vat of hot plastic and somehow they make the device out of that. It's like printing, but it's messy printing. So now they have 3D printing, which changes the whole game. And so we made some plastic. This totally is a whole revised, I didn't bring the concept idea, but at first I was going to do it out of metal, which was a dumb idea, but you find these things out after the fact. In fact, we had a meeting with Patterson Dental, which is a massive distribution company out of Minnesota.
They're from Minnesota.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I had a meeting with them to show them the idea. So I had this concept, and 3 days before the meeting, I got back my original. It was a metal type device, and it was heavy and awkward and didn't work. I thought, oh, this is no good. Yeah. So I went right back to the drawing board. And so I found a company out in Anaheim. There's quite a few plastics manufacturing companies. And I met up with a guy, and I said, look, I'll pay you $500 if you sit down with me and on AutoCAD, redesign this. So we were up to about 2 a.m. It was probably like 8 to 12 hours.
Wow.
Spent $500, gave a $5 check, and we redesigned everything. And so I would sit there and dictate what I wanted, and he would do it.
How did you know? I mean, other than the material, my marketing thing is going on. So how did you know that metal wasn't going to work, or what you needed to change to make it work for customers?
Well, when I got it back, it was super heavy.
It was just
That's not going to work.
You knew that
yeah, it's not going to work. It's totally not. But it was a good prototype. And so, like I always told dental students, one of the thing I look for, like in a student, isn't your success. It's really your ability to handle your failure. So, like in dentistry, if I had a student taking an exam and they screwed something up, you can sit there and beat yourself up all you want. But the question is, can you identify the fact that you screwed up? If you know what you screwed up and why you screwed up and can derive some information from that, that's better than not knowing. Because I had a lot of dental students that didn't know that they'd done something wrong. So that's really important to me. So if you know what your error is and you can identify, okay, this is not right, and now figure out what you're gonna do to fix it. And that's really important to me. And that's how I always approach it. When I applied for dental school, I'd been out of school for 3 years. And they have a series of things on the dental aptitude test, like biochem, organic chemistry, some subjects I'd never taken. So when I got my scores back, they were totally low. Like, I shouldn't have been in dental school. The one score that I got that was really high was in what's called the PAT, the Perceptual Ability Test. And I scored top 5% of the nation. And that's the ability to take something like this without even seeing it and picture it in your head and turn around 360 degrees and see it from every angle. That's one area that I happen to be gifted at. Okay. And many of you probably are too. But I discovered that after taking the DAT. I didn't know that.
So I want to touch on, you said your ability to handle your failure, and you talked about a couple of things: being able to identify that something's wrong, being able to know what to do about it. Do you find that is a skill or an ability that you have in spades and other people don't have, or why don't more people do that? Is it? Well,
and that's the thing about dentistry. It's like, what was good about dental school, okay, I've already said that dental school, I started off and I had 3 strikes against me, right? I wasn't rich, wasn't a doctor's kid, and I wasn't an Adventist. But what I found out in dental school was I had to ask a lot of questions. So the way you find out how to solve a problem is to ask questions to people who might know how. And that anyone can do that.
Were you afraid to ask questions? Did
Initially,
that take some getting over a hurdle?
You're in a room, well, how many of you want to sit up here and talk in front of everybody? Most people, they all, good for you. It's important.
Christian will sit in a room by himself.
But that's, and talk to himself. But that's the thing. Most people don't want to ask a question when there's 100 people around them.
Right.
And but I would
100 really smart people.
Well, and so I always ask questions, and to me there really is not any real dumb question. There's some dumb answers, I guess, but I ask a lot of questions. In fact, I was voted most likely to ask questions when we got out of dental school, and it's like I'm proud of that, because I succeeded. I got through school, and so asking questions and trying to find answers is really valuable.
So we find that too, in working with students. We find that there's a barrier a lot of times with young people and their courage to ask for help. And so that's one of the things that we really push is you've got to know when to ask for help and have the courage to do it.
Right.
And that's obviously something you got an award for. You were
but it's super important that you just feel comfortable to ask questions, because not everyone knows. And what I found, and it became very apparent, is that a lot of times I ask a question and 10 other people have the same question, just didn't want to ask.
Right.
And so now everyone gets the information at my expense. But I'm okay with that.
We're almost out of time.
I know, it's too bad. Cancel class. This is really interesting.
Okay. Last question.
Sure.
You're a smart person.
Let's
assume
I say I work hard, but yeah.
Okay, so you work hard. You're a smart person. Do hardworking, smart people, good people, do they fail?
Yes, they do, in disastrous, profound ways sometimes.
Have you ever failed in disastrous and profound ways?
This was a profound failure in many ways, but they say there's a saying, the roads to riches is paved with potholes. Yeah. And there's another saying that success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. This led me to some of my greatest depths of despair. I'm
I have no idea what that means. What?
Well, I never ran a business, but when I started this, I ran out $20,000 I took from the house. I ran out of that money fairly quickly.
$20,000.
If you have a business plan, just expect to spend a lot more than you ever budget. Not knowing anything about, I didn't know about P&Ls and balance sheets. I didn't know any of that stuff.
Wouldn't it have been nice to have gone to a business school and gotten that knowledge before you started?
I paid for one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I paid for an education and I got it. But the saying that success has 1,000 fathers, I had gone out to family and friends and I raised $600,000 in about a year and a half.
With family and friends?
Mm-hmm. And other friends,
That
which is
must
hard to
have been
do.
hard.
Well, it was hard at first, then it got really easy. Because once you start doing it, you get good at it. And it wasn't a shyster thing. I had a PowerPoint presentation I made up. I showed my concept. I talked about the competitor. I studied their patents. I did everything. I went to an expensive lawyer. I got what's called it's an opinion about your patentability, about your non-infringement. And I was given a green light that we think you're good to go on this. And so I had all this to arm myself to do a presentation that was professional and say, would you mind investing $5,000 in this? I had someone invest $140,000. So that was my biggest. Because I was prepared, But so everyone loves you when you're the toast of the town and things are going well. But the moment it tanks and everyone loses their money, and you've got to sit there and tell people, by the way, the money's gone, and all of a sudden you have all kinds of negativity coming out. That's when you become the orphan. So failure is an orphan. I was left alone, and I had a business partner. It's a long story, but he was basically not a good person and took me. Basically, he was stealing. There's all kinds of things going on, but we dissolved the company. 2010, it was dissolved, and anyway, so that's. But this is still in that whole process since then. This has been developed into what it is now, and it's being sold
in 93 countries.
96. But anyways, so but in that process, I met President Blum. Mm-hmm. I met Professor Leonard. I met Angel. Mm-hmm. Brought him to the Vision Dinner last year. I mean, all this stuff happened because of this. So I always think, well, God turned tragedy into triumph. Right. Example right there. Right. That's a perfect story right there. Right. So by the grace of God, here we are.
So my takeaway, sorry, I didn't leave room for questions, but
I know.
My takeaway on this is we bring people in here for lots of reasons. One of the reasons is we want to put these students into contact with people who have done things. Mm-hmm. People who have taken risks, have done things that we haven't thought about doing. So, but this is a person that I'm just going to offer this for you. But Sure. This is a person that you can learn from if you want to get to know somebody who's invented stuff, worked on patents, worked with lawyers, had to prepare a pitch to ask for money from friends and family. This is a person that you could know, and now you're in the same room with them, and now's the time to get to know them.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions whenever.
Thank you for coming in.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. And by the way, tell them about Zirk.com so they can look at that.
Oh, look up Zirk.com. That's where you'll find this.
I have a question. How does this work?
Yeah. Well, that's what I say. If you look at Zirk.com, but here, I'll have any extras? Well, here, put it in your mouth. But basically, it's a bite block. So one side goes in, you bite against here. This pushes your tongue back. So your tongue's behind here. And this pulls your cheek out. Your teeth are over this. So, Zirk.com. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, totally awesome.
Yeah.